ihtiyacımız var. Everything's ready. YouTube on, Zoom Master on. We are ready to Turkish session. Thank you so much. Welcome to all the participants and visitors, guests. Yes, Gülpullan.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are all hearing and seeing me nicely without any trouble. This afternoon, we are together for Group 3's fourth session. This is organized by ICOM Turkey. This is part of the, obviously you all know, International Virtual Conference on Museums 2021. And today's topic is museum education and e-learning. I'm very delighted that I was asked to moderate this session, and without extending very much, I want to say a few words on e-learning and museum education, because I think in some ways in recent years I had quite some experience on both of these topics. First, I was heading a group that organized an online certificate program as part of the Sarat project that I coordinated. That was, this is all pre-COVID and everything, and that program became very, very successful. But these were pre-prepared videos, and our participants went through an election process, selection process, etc. And then they were very keen on attending the sessions and getting their certificate, which lasted 20 lessons and 2 months pretty much. And now we have more than over 5,500 graduates of that Sarat program in Turkey. So that was a very successful online experience. This year, due to COVID circumstances, I taught 2 courses at Bilgi University. One was on cultural heritage management, and the other one was on museum history and theory. And that online teaching experience or online learning experience from students' point of view was quite different and challenging. Of course, these are just like today's meeting, Zoom meetings. Okay, as an instructor, of course, I prepare PowerPoints, I try to generate a discussion with the students and so on. But I must say that students' participation was not something I hoped for, and most of the time they don't even turn on their cameras, so you don't even know if the person is there or not there. Is she watching something on TV while it looks like it's connected to the course and so on? So I must say that my university online teaching was not as great as I hoped to. But I want to conclude my introduction to saying that when you have a good internet connection, which is not always the case, as we see in these meetings as well, in fact, internet and online connection is an incredible opportunity that is, you know, across borders, across countries, you know, across people's personal circumstances, you know, all kind of other geographical issues, travel issues, and actually creating a great opportunity and a great equality for learning and other kind of sharings. And I am thinking that in today's session, our participants will offer us their interesting, and I am sure positive experiences on various museum related e-learning and online experiences. And I am hoping that one day everywhere in the world the internet will be free and with a good connection. I think that's what the world needs, really. You know, internet should be something like air, that we should all have access, you know, without paying for it and without searching for it. So without you know, further ado, I want to first introduce and then invite our keynote speaker for today's session. Our keynote speaker is Professor Ali Akın Akyol, which I am sure most of you or all of you know quite well. He is a professor at Ankara Hacı Bayram Veli University now, which used to be Gazi University. And he is also a very active member of CUMIT and ICOM Turkey. And I mean, my experience in the last 2 weeks, actually, we owe a lot to him. I owe a lot to him that these sessions are happening, running smoothly. Professor Akyol is a scientist, actually, a scientist turned museum and cultural heritage person, which is usually the best combination. So he's a chemist, and then he's specializing on archaeometric studies, and he's teaching archaeometry and conservation related various courses, and you know, conducting laboratory sessions at the university. He is, of course, he has great experience in over 35 archaeological excavations and 13 field surveys, not just in Turkey, all over the world, you know, including Afghanistan, Albania, you know, Egypt, Serbia, Sudan, Syria, Turkmenistan. I am jealous, really. You have been everywhere. And he is also a member of various international organizations and committees that I don't want to tell one by one, but they are both involving archaeometry and cultural heritage related specializations. Professor Akyol's talk today is entitled Quo Vadis, Online Museum and E-Learning. The floor is yours, and you have 15 minutes.
So much for your honorable words for me and for the participants, and welcome all the visitors. I have some many hats. I'm hosting this session at the same time, so I want to say something about the this organization a bit, and then I'll start my presentation. During the global pandemic, COVID-19, you know, period, the first of the international virtual conference on museum, IVCoM, it's called ICOM 2020, was organized on December last year, 12 to 15, between the December 12 to 15, and the cooperation with the Malaysia and the Turkey, Pakistan, CUMIT, and the ICOM Turkey together. The success of the ICOM 2020 organization, the synergy, friendship, solidarity, volunteering, and exchange information on museum, museology, protection of the cultural heritage, etc., created during the activity, encourage partners to organize the new one virtual conference in 2021. The second international virtual conference on museum, this conference, museum conference, organized in this week. You participated in a week. It's called the part 1 and the group 3 organization, ICOM 2021, organized by, again, Pakistan, Kumit, and the ICOM Turkey, celebrate the International Day and the first Group 1 sessions, and the opened inaugural sessions was organized. ICOM presenter was also shared their valuable words at that time. We have 32 countries. This is very huge organization, sometimes very traumatic, but the valuable is the sharing all countries' experience. It was very wonderful and a great experience for all the participant countries, I think. At ICOM 2021, we plan to discuss the exchange information with our valuable speakers from all over the world about museum, museology, protection of the cultural heritage, new concepts and new approaches. That's why this is the Kuwadis. Or what about the new concept of this? This is the example of the new normal for the organization, sessions, symposium, all the e-learning, and this is example of the sessions. There are new words in the new normal. I want to share some now. In the new world, there's some new words. So we can ask themselves, Kuwadis, what's going on? Online museum against the classical museum. New learning, e-learning, electronical or digital learning is another words. These words are discussing all over the world now. I like this very valuable words. The past is never dead. The past is not even the past. So it's still going on, and the past 2 minutes, 2 seconds again in the past. This is education problem. What about museum education? Museum education in the classical part, new part. What about the new museum education? We have some words, museum education is a field. Museum in education is a part of the field. Education is the museum, the education part of the museum. But we have new words now. Museum education in pandemic. It's questionable and discussing. We have new normal now. In a year, in the pandemic era, we saw so many conflict and so many awareness, and we reached the new normal. What about new normal? New normal for the museum or museology, e-learning. E-learning appeared in a new world as a new normal. And we can say e-education is another part of the normal. There are some visitors, but in the world, this is not the real visitors. This is e-visitors. The education is e-education. The media is the social media sometimes the museum media. There is a big role for the museum media for the new world, new normal. There is a missing part for the museum. There is no person in the e-virtual person or controlling the e-virtual activity. So it has to be now in the new normal. There is a share for the new persons, new personality. E-virtual educators is the new position for the museum position. So arts and cultural heritage education holds great potential for the encouraging greater participation, innovation, and creativity in the learning. Cultural institutions like museum, galleries, exhibition halls, and archives are a prime context in which access to diverse and vibrant artistic and cultural heritage is provided and can be used for both communication and learning purposes, for both. In the world, we saw so many examples in the pandemic era for the many educational new models. So some disappeared, some appeared in this period. Cultural institutions collect, store, and exhibit artworks and cultural artifacts through targeted educational activities. Museums, galleries, exhibition halls, and archives bridge between the past and the present. This creates opportunities for transitions of old knowledge to our modern times. E-learning is defined as those learning processes that are at least partially supported or facilitated by information and communication technologies. It's in abbreviation ICT technologies, ICT. The term defines a superset for all approach that utilize ICT for instruction, training, and at the same time, education. Although e-learning as a meta definition is often used to refer technological solutions that were developed to support mostly formal education and training, uh, this does not reflect application of ICT. Repurpose existing solution for supporting learning. In order to broaden the perspectives on a role of ICT for learning process in term technology enhanced learning. It's another abbreviation, TEL learning, TEL, technology advanced learning, has been introduced. Moreover, TEL, technology enhanced learning, also refers to societal, organization, organizational, procedural, and cognitive dimension of the relations between learning processes and technology. Having this wider scope of TEL in mind, in term e-learning is continued to be used through this art this era because many application of ICT in art and the cultural heritage education are particularly developed for educational purposes in this era, in this new normal period. Virtual museum and virtual archives is appearing. Virtual museums are often extensions of real museums. In their simplest form, virtual museums just present information and pictures of objects displayed in the exhibition. In some cases, even virtual exhibitions are available. More complex solutions provide tours through graphical museum models. The different approaches of virtual museum have in common that they are closely related to the exhibition activities of hosting institution. Additionally, there are also entirely virtual museums that have no real counterparts. Virtual archives provide in most cases online access to digitized data in online databases through online search forms and online indexes. They are usually implemented as information repositories that can give open access to the collection. Some institutions offer special learning solutions to their online visitors. Like in Turkey example, I am sharing now in your screen. This is Ankara examples. This is virtual activity for the Rahmi Koç Museum in Ankara. These e-learning environments offer learning opportunities for different topics and target groups for different generations. Uh, Visitors are guided through didactic prepared multimedia content at the same time. Such content offers prepared learning paths for the visitors. E-learning environments often aim ongoing learning process and repeated visits in order to create a better understanding on topics. Few institutions integrates web services in their educational activities, in the especially the official museum. Uh, Few institutions. This allows the users to participate, interact, work creatively, collaborate with other users, or create new contents in this era. Games are very important for this era. A range of learning games and quizzes can be found on museum websites. This approach combines art and cultural heritage education and game structures through visitors can explore information, not directly, sometimes indirectly. Most solutions are suited to the children as primary target group in different group: primary school, elementary school, kindergarten school, preschool child, and for all the visitors. The storytelling approach of these games is almost always linear and provides little freedom in changing pathways. Some institutions offer special services for creative work, especially as games for children. These services use ICT for printing, painting, or adapting digital pictures and encourage users to find new and creative ways to art and cultural heritage. This is some opportunity. At the end of my words, in a few minutes, I want to say something about the commit experience about, in this era. Qubit experiences awareness of the pandemic era opportunities. It started with this awareness. How can we organize in the new normal in this pandemic era, COVID-19 era? In the some period, lockdown period era education. Qubit experienced so many facilities for the in that period, in the pandemic period. International Museum virtual conference on museum conference was organized. You see the figures on one. If you think about the content, this ICOM sessions, it will be greater. International virtual conference was organized from the last year February as a month and the preliminary era of the pandemic period. Webinar series also shared in every month from the February 2020 and the 2021. E-learning series was started at this period. Our note to a social memory, we took a note in the website for from some institutions and children's and for all the visitors. Lectures organized for the specific them lectures, live broadcast, live online seminars, conferences, and so many applications. You see the ICOM Turkey Day, Museum Day organization is a kind. In a few and limited period, I shared my e-learning and e-education though. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Akyol. As we are all realizing, with or without COVID-19, these online meetings and other opportunities that became more obvious to everyone during the COVID time through internet will remain with us. It will be part of our lives. As I said in the beginning, on the one hand, it gives a great opportunity bringing together people without traveling, without spending time, money, at the comfort of our offices or homes. We are able to conduct these things that you showed lots of examples of it. But on the other hand, for example, when we use e-learning in the museums, I think it's always a debate whether we want people to look at more to the original things that they come to see, or do we want them to look at a screen while they are in the museum? Or offering too much on the internet, will it stop people going to visit museums, or will it make them more curious? I think all of these things are going to be tested in time, and the good parts will remain, and the not so good, not working parts will be eliminated. But yes, we are all going through a new experience. Now, we'll continue. I thank you again, and if there are questions, we are going to take them at the end of the session. Our next speaker is Associated Professor Dr. Ceren Güner Öz. That I hope she's here. I was worried about not seeing her.
I'm here, Ms. Pullman.
Okay, you are here. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me continue the introduction then. Currently, she is a faculty member in the museology department of Ankara University, and at the same time a member of ICOM Turkey. She has started her studies in the area of tourism, and while she was working as a tourist guide, she started to get interested in museums, cultural heritage, and promotion of cultural heritage, and so on, and then continued her graduate work in museum studies at Ankara University, both for her master's and PhD. And I see that she is particularly interested in children's museums, and she had a lot of experience working as volunteer or intern various children museums in Germany and in the United States of America. And then she also in her graduate work focused on the new museums in the United Arab Emirates and in Jordan. And museum education, cultural diversity, and children museums are her specialties. Now, today, her topic is museums, society, and education in post-COVID era, new paradigms in Turkey. Dr. Ceren, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Pullman. Thank you, and good afternoon to all. Thank you for all the participations and all the participants, of course. Is it possible for you to see my screen? I just shared a screen, Ms. Pullman.
Yeah, we see it and we hear you well, yes.
Thank you very much. I'm, of course, just talking about the museum education first, as everyone knows that the museums and the shaping of knowledge is the most important thing for all. It's been very important since 19th century, I think. Maybe it could be more earlier times, maybe the previous times it was really important, but officially we were talking about museum education. We've been talking about museum education since 19th century. So lots of publications, we already just read, had the information from them about the museum educators, about the museum basics, about the museums are in motion, as everyone knows. So the preservations of the creations of nature and humanity is really important for us. We have to do lots of research and interpretation about our cultural heritage, our cultural diversity, and so on. So the museums are generally coded as the lifelong learning environments, both inside and on-site environments. Of course, museums are meaning of prestige, the diplomacy, museums are meaning of the urban development and for the future for the social development, and so on. Not only in international languages are being used in museology publications, but also in Turkey. We most probably have had the maybe more than 10 years, more than 20 years, lots in Turkish publications about the relation of museum education departments, what is happening in museum education. And we learned that there is something really important in Turkey, because we need more visitors into the museums. We need new museum types into our country, and museums without walls are really popular for us. And access to collection is really significant. National identities in globalized world, of course, really encase in our disciplines, and the projects on cultural diversity and spectacular visitor experiences are important. Today, the museum brands are really significant all around the world, not only in Turkey, but all around the world. Of course, the global partnerships, we really needed them. Today, it's being happening. The worldwide webinar is being happening at the moment. So the global partnerships are important. And web museums and virtual museums, we've been talking about these circumstances nearly for 10 years or 15 years. But today, of course, many things has changed after the COVID-19 pandemic process. Nothing changed about the importance of museum education, because the extension of the museums and collaboration of the museums and the education for the museums are the most important issues at the moment in our challenging times, most probably. The museum education just started with the museum educators, and all around the world, especially in United States in 1960s, the people are attending several museum education processes and phases with the guidance of museum docents, the chair of educators, the director of educators, the vice presidents, the learning interpretations, facilitators, guides, museum docents, as I said before, and community training organizers. But in Turkey, we are being called as museum educator. Of course, the very important special museum specialists like archaeologists and art historians, they are just working officially in the museums. And they were also working as a museum educators. But in Turkey, in the beginning of 2000s, we just started with the special programs in the collaboration of National Education, the Ministry of National Education and the Ministry of Culture. According to these programs, the teachers are being trained about the museum education all around Turkey. What about the subjects of these museum education programs? They are, of course, both on-site educational commitments, and also it's being created the new inside and the virtual museum education components, as Mr. Ali Akın insisted. The visual culture, the family participation, teamwork, and the works in group, learning designs, object interaction, virtual designs, museum education kits, and project-based learning methods were the issues, the phases of teachers training programs in Turkey. So we just started to, in 2007, we just started to work with the teachers. They are just being transferred into museum educators. Both first, the previous started, they just started as a volunteer museum educators, but at the moment they are just both the teachers, and not only the teachers, but also the museum educators. In different types of museums, we just started to use e-learn based museum education models, but of course on-site museum education models. We used the technology, 3D information systems. We just used different types of museums all around Turkey, because at the moment in 2021, we have up to 410 museums. They are directly under the directorate of Ministry of Culture and Tourism. And by this one, as we already just know that approximately 500 new special museums are being served in the cultural area of Turkey. In 2010, after 2010 maybe, the different sort of participation in museological stats just already started. We have lots of seminars, workshops, different types of congress about the museology. So we understood that the teachers' participation, the children's participation are the most important issue for the museums. So the national education curriculum has changed. Of course, with the first change in 1995, the primary school's national curriculum in the context of national heritage in courses as a Turkish, math, science, painting, social sciences, they just accepted the museum education as an important learning field and determined the following as the content of the field I shared with you. Maybe you can see from the screen. We just attended the monuments, we just attended the museums, the historical buildings, the old archaeological components, natural heritage areas and ancient sites and historical sites were in the same basket, maybe through the teachers' training programs. And in 1998, the museum education started as a course in the preschool teachers training programs, in social sciences teachers training programs, and primary school teachers training programs, both 2 hours, 2 selective courses with 2 credits. Of course, different sort of the high license and dissertation programs in museology just started. And we understood as a Turkey, we need more teachers. They are really being trained very professionally in the museum education field. And we had different sorts of applications, different sort of on-site applications, both in different sites of museums and different cities of Anatolia. And we understood the creatorship, the performance arts, the creative drama are important phases for the museum education. And we had to do the practice, all of them, through the learning in the museum processes. So every museum has the museum experts at the moment, and they know, these museum experts know what the museum education is, but on-site. Of course, these on-site training programs were really significant, they were really educative, and they were really entertaining. So the people learned lots of things until 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic just started, not only in Turkey, of course, that was the global problem, as everyone knows. It is still seriously affecting all the cultural institutions. We have to admit it, we have to confess, all around the world, while some museums have reopened with major limitations. Unfortunately, the other institutions are still facing the consequences of the health crisis behind closed doors. 2 days ago, most probably, ICOM just announced the statics, the pots of the statics, and we just know that nearly the half of the museums reopened. Unfortunately, many museums we are still looking forward to see they are inside. But the museums, of course, they have to meet their audiences on the online platforms, and everyone knows they have to carry out the works of renewing their new websites. They had to transfer their collections into the digital platforms. They had to create the museum virtual newspapers, maybe, museum virtual learning facilities, maybe, and they had to open their social media accounts or activating their existing accounts, maybe. Of course, that is why the online was the situation maybe in the first half of COVID-19 pandemic process. But in the second half of this pandemic process, the digital museum visits especially started. And today, we just know that 60% of museum visitors are generally inside visitors, the digital museum visitors. The digital participation just raised, and we already know that the micro-museology is rising. The huge museum institutions are driving themselves, transferring themselves into the little micro-museology, and showing behind the scenes in the museums are really important at the moment. They're also most important parts for the museum learning processes, and taking a part in make and share activities, especially prepared based on the museum collection and open to the participation of the audience. And we know that we were the witnesses what is happening in the virtual museum education programs all around the world, from United States of America to India, maybe from Pakistan to Iran. We have just seen different sort of samples, like the archaeology pottery making online, or little puzzles online. They were just supporting all the educational facilities of the museums. For example, you could paint like a Turner while you are visiting the inside and both the online museum visit sites of Tate Modern, for example. That was really important for us to reach a 24 hours system through these virtual museum combinations. And of course, you could could combine the Turkish museums, what happened through the Turkish museology about the different sorts of virtual museum tours. Of course, 360 degrees virtual museum tours were used by the online visitors. And of course, behind the scenes are opened for the museum visitors and also the museum audiences, because all of us are museum audiences, 24 hours museum audiences at the moment. So we could see the Museum of Troy conservation facilities could be seen both online like a live stream and also the on-site inside of the museum. Of course, different sort of museum education possibilities were just happened. You should attend the online museum education activities, as of course the previous meters already talked about it. The online museum education we just started, and also we continued with the teachers. More than 10,100 teachers just attended online museum educations under the directorate of Ministry of Education and Ministry of Culture. And they used hide and seek facilities, find the object and focus on the facilities while using 360 museum education activity from the Turkish museums. And also we know that the digital collections are really important. Unfortunately, we do not have very many digital collections, but for example, this digital collection is from the Ankara Toy Museum. I'm also a part of Ankara Toy Museum. So we understood the importance of these digital collections, collecting and transferring the realities to the digital visual formations, and the phases are really important because we used these activities, we use these situations as an online. I just like to show you, for example, for the previous school teachers, we use the primary school teachers, and we use maybe the secondary school teachers. We just developed different sort of online educational kits, and we used these online educational kits through the Matterpoint 360-degree museum solution. So that was really important for us to try to discover the new things through the museology in Turkey, as Ms. Pullman insisted at the moment. And we already know that the new hybrid museum experiences just emerged. That is from the very important temporary exhibition which was happened in Ankara about the toy museum again. This hybrid educational facility just happened both inside, just include the inside museum activities and on-site museum activities and online museum activities. Just 3 of these activities just happened in the same time. So we just know that until there is a complete recovery, museums with large endowments and collections to draw from will be in a better position than small ones, of course, that rely on contributions from supporters. So museums will need more supporters. The writers, the designers, the architects should be invited into this contribution. This is, of course, very concrete for Turkey, but not only for Turkey, but all the rest of the world, just again having this troubling problem. Museums should connect art, museums should focus on well-being, and this is the time for rethink for all of us about the museum education, of course. So we should think to be a hybrid. So we have to be hybrid, and we have to think the hybrid. We have to use online statements and activities. I do not have to make some more overdose, something about that, but I'm just closing at the moment. As a conclusion, I'd like to give you an example. This book, the first publication of that book happened in United States of America in 2013. And the second publication just happened in 2017. And we translate this book in Turkish. It is online at the moment. Maybe in a week time, we could just get this book as a concrete sample. This is about the Handbook of Museum Educator. The name of the book is the Handbook of Museum Educator. And this book talks about online education. And both inside and on-site educational activities, they were designed the step-by-step, the phase-by-phase for the museum educators. So it is in Turkish at the moment. So this is the great opportunity for us to see what is happening all around the world and what is the most important circumstance to make better statement about the museum education, both inside, on-site, and also the online educational process. I'd like to show it to you, of course. Thank you very much for this opportunity. If it is possible, I'm just making a conclusion, Ms. Pulma.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this really comprehensive talk. You touched upon lots of important topics. I mean, obviously, education is the main issue, and when we look at the world's museum's history, actually, education is the main function of the museums. It has been always defined like that. Maybe in Turkey, we kind of became latecomers in the education aspect of the museums, because I think when we look at our history of museums in Turkey, we have been so focused on keeping archaeological objects safe. And because our museums were so focused on the collection themselves, you know, all this participation and education related functions of museums came a bit late in Turkey. But I mean, as we see from the examples you showed, there is a boom really now, both in education and all the related aspects of museum studies in Turkey, in the academic world, but also in the museums themselves. And the examples of teachers, elementary school teachers, I don't know, secondary, high school teachers, that are, you know, educated how to use museums as a resource is really a wonderful thing, because I always think that museums in Turkey, and we have them everywhere, even in the tiniest towns of our country, are incredible resources to teach everything: history, archaeology, heritage, nature, you name it. So I'm sure people have questions for you at the end, but we leave that to the end. And thank you again on behalf of everyone. Now, our next talk is a joint talk together, Mr. Halil Demirdelen and Ms. Mine Çiftçi. I would like to introduce them briefly to you, and then I'm going to give the first talk to Mr. Halil Demirdelen. They are, well, Mr. Demirdelen is a Near Eastern archaeologist, like myself, actually. And for a long time, he worked at the Anatolian Civilization Museums in Ankara, and until recently he was the deputy director of the museum. And now he continues his work in the Ethnography Museum in Ankara, again, one of the oldest and most valuable museums in Turkey. And he is also working as a museum educator. His partner in this talk, Ms. Mine Çiftçi, is an Hittitologist, and she is also a member of the Anatolian Civilizations Museum in Ankara. And they are both interested in, you know, museum education and, you know, working actively on this issue. And I must say that years ago, when we first started our museum studies graduate courses at Koç University, Anatolian Civilization Museums and its late director, dear Hikmet Denizli, had given us an incredible tour and showed us what kind of education activities, children's education activities, they have been conducted in the Anatolian Civilization Museum in Ankara. So I can say that Anatolian Civilization Museums is really a pioneer in doing active children's education work in the museums in Turkey, and maybe a sample example. Now, their talk is titled New Business Models and Implementations at Museum Education. And first, I give the floor to Mr. Halil Demirdelen.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everybody. I am, as Gülhan Plan says, I am teacher, primary school of primary school. I am archaeologist, and then last 25 years, I am museum educator. Now we will talk about museum education activities first time in our museum. Yes. Yes, new business models and implementations at the museum education. What did we do? What are we doing at pandemic era? And what will we do at future about museum education? Yes, functions of museum: protection, exhibition, excavation, survey, and this is so important, education and public relations. There is a formula of the last 20 years about museum education: think, talk, touch, try, equal, teach. This is 5T formula. We always use this formula at the museum education activities in our museum. I worked at the Anatolian Civilization Museum 28 years. Last 6 years, I was the deputy director. Yes, at this museum, there wasn't any museum education activities 30 years ago, but there was a lot of school children walking away in our museum, but this is not proper visiting which we would like to see in museums. In a day, sometimes 200 school children, sometimes 1,000 school children were visiting us, but like this in these pictures. Approximately 200 children were coming, and 15 minutes, yes, 15 minutes later, they were going out the museum. But we started to museum education activities. Mr. Professor Ali Akın Akyol helped me so much 25 years ago, but just 20 years ago, we started with him Journey the Past like this. Lecture at the museum ambience. There was a lot of tours, but they were stay at the museum only 15 or 20 minutes, but for these lessons was so useful for them. They were not interested in artifacts or museum. We talked how can we do for them, what can we do for them, so that we started lectures and seminars about Anatolian civilizations, about museum education, illegal trade of ancient object smuggling. We gave a lot of seminars to whom? Teachers, museum curators, security forces, custom officers. It was so important for us because they were learning cultural heritage. Yes, we started archaeological excavation in our museum's garden. They were learning what are we doing at the archaeological excavation. We can dig. Yes, you can dig like us, like an little archaeologist, as you see in these pictures. And then we started organized training activities for children first time 2002 between 2005. They were learning also archaeological science. What are we doing like this? For example, these are original, some imitation objects, and they are taking some measures, they are taking some photos, they are writing inventory. Yes, there was, as you know, there was Museums Week for a long time, but as you know, there is only Museums Day at today. Yes, we celebrated Museum Week for a long time with music, with dance, with some museum education activities. Now, as you know, only Museums Days, still we are preparing some activities. Yes, we prepared a training workshop. This is very important for us. Yes, as you see in these pictures, cuneiform workshop. My colleague Mine Çiftçi will talk about cuneiform workshop. What are we doing? What did we do at the past and what will we do in future? Yes, they were learning writing systems, original clay. They used original clay. Some of them archaeologists and Hittitologists helped us so much. Yes, ceramic workshops, again with original clay they used. Coin workshop, they learned economic relations. What is the money and why and how can we use this money? How can prepare this money design? Yes, now they are learning money, and at the showcases they can understand money relations, money designs, money, which kind of money we are displaying at the showcases. Restoration and conservation workshops, they are restaurateur and conservator. They are helping children every time. Yes, Olympic Fire and Games with school children. Again, Mr. Ali Akın Akyol helped us so much for these activities. He and his friends organized and managed these activities. We were so happy, and also school children were so happy. Some of traditional games and Olympic fires, as you see here, they were so happy. Yes, workshops with visually impaired. This is my special work. I am interested in impaired school children, especially blind school children. I am working plus 20 years. In this picture, you can see these are blind school children, physically handicapped students. And then last 2 years, we are working with Mine Çiftçi here, Mine Çiftçi. Again, we are still working with blind school children. In this day, 2019, I am working at the ethnographical museum so that Mine Çiftçi is still going on these activities for blind school children. Yes, we shared our experiences with other museums. For example, this is from Kaman Archaeological Museum. This is from Mardin Archaeological Museum at the Education Garden. They learned our museum education activities, museum education principles. Yes, Çorum Archaeological Museum, again, education activities at the Hattusha's antique city. It is capital of Hittite Empire. It is very important antique capital of Anatolia. Yes, there are a lot of electronic maps in our museum, in my old museum, electronic maps, interactive screens, as you see. For example, there are a lot of civilizations here. If you touch anyone, you can see this information, and then you can change these pictures of this civilization. There are a lot of big screens about a village, for example. In this village, you can walk away inside. And also there is a very important wedding ceremony, Hittite cup. You can touch and you can change all informations here. Yes, at the Ankara Ethnography Museum, we are still working about museum education, and we are preparing some programs for school children and teachers. Professor Ceren Karadeniz and Professor Ayşe Çakır İlhan from Ankara University prepared a big program with Ministry of Education and Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Together, we are working together. Yes, for teachers, for school children, there are a lot of activities. And also there is a interactive screen here. They can learn how can we do a pottery or glass work here. Yes, at Gordion, it is capital of Phrygian Empire. It is very important in Ankara. Ankara is capital of Phrygian Empire. Last 70 years, there is American excavations here. They astonish so much. Everybody says, all villagers says to him, you are tourist? Yes, only they know they are tourists. They are not archaeologists. They didn't know anything. But with this cultural heritage education program, we started with villagers' children, then teachers, then young people, then adults, and still going on these activities with teachers. We visited Hattuşa Antique City, we visited Gordion Antique City and Kaman Archaeological City. We are always sharing our experiences with teachers. This is very important. They are learning cultural heritage. How can we love it? How can we protect cultural heritage? It is still going on. Tomorrow in Ankara, there is a tour with this teacher and university students for this project. Yes, now what are we doing at today's pandemic era? What will the museum of the future be like? You can see Moses here. Yes, this is very important posters of ICOMs. 3 years ago, tradition was so important, future of tradition. 2 years ago, diversity and inclusion. This year, recover and reimagine. Next year, power of museums. We will talk this power of museums. This is very important. These are very important motto posters for us, for museum curators and museum educators. What can we do? This is new approach for us. Yes, ICOM President Mr. Alberto Garlandini says this vital role of promoting diversity about pandemic era. What are we doing? This is very, very important. Thanks to President. Yes, this is very important for us again. New approach 2021. Plural perspectives, nomadic and accessible, community connectedness, meaningful experience, alive, responsive. This is very important. We have to use these models, these systems. Yes, this is Turkish of these systems. Very, very important. We have to do this for all museum curators and museum educators. Yes, at the private museum, they are also interested in online seminars, online games, online informations, and visual tours. This is very important, especially at the pandemic era. What did they do? And we are always learning new systems, new organizations from them. For example, for me. Yes, Chess Museum in Ankara. There is a visual orienteering race and some chess games, a lot of things, some painting, wall painting, or stone painting activities here. Yes, Rahmi Koç Museum in Istanbul and in Ankara. You can see here Ayşe Bağırıcıoğlu. She's watching us now, I think so. She is preparing wonderful education programs in their museum. Yes, Sabancı Museum. It is very important private museum. There are a lot of children workshops and children books, about children books, as you see in these pictures. Yes, Para Museum. Again, it is in Istanbul. There are a lot of programs for everybody, for kids, for preschool children, for youngs, for teachers. Yes, Toy Museum. Mrs. Cerengan Güneros is responsible of this museum, and they managed wonderful this museum. They have a lot of great activities, and they are preparing new activities, as I know. Yes, now I have to say this. This is our motto, my formula again. If you know the cultural heritage, you can love cultural heritage. If you love cultural heritage, you can protect them. This is very, very important. And I am always asking to school children and adults, what is civilization? What is culture? What is museum? If they know this question, they can protect our cultural heritage, not only in Turkey, in the world. So that we have to know cultural heritage so much. Special thanks, Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Culture and Tourism, General Director of Cultural Heritage and Museums, ICOM Turkey, Kumit Müzeder, and Anatolian Civilizations Museum and Ankara Ethnography Museum. Now, my colleague, Mrs. Mine Çiftçi, Hittitologist, talk about what are we doing at the pandemic era. Thank you so much for watching me, for listening me. Yes, Mina Hanım.
Thank you, Halil Bey. So Mina Hanım can continue, and we can talk after that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Demirden. Good afternoon to all participants and to everyone. I will talk about educational activities in the post-pandemic museum. Educational activities in the post-pandemic museum. When we evaluate the last 2 years together, we see that the pandemic has transformed museology. Before the pandemic, face-to-face educational activities and the conferences for adults were moved to virtual platforms. Educational activities for children were carried out with the opportunities provided via Zoom. Although this transformation is difficult, it gave children who were previously unable to access to museum a chance to see the virtual museum. These virtual museum tours were created by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of Turkey. I held online conferences with 6 different schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and high schools, and had the chance to contact over 500 students. What kind of online education? Firstly, children are given access to virtual museum tour through teachers. Thanks to this assignment given before the lesson, children get to know the museum. After the virtual museum tour, children are given a form with questions about the museum. Secondly, a meeting is held via Zoom, and the same questions are asked to the children. This question aimed to explain the importance of protecting cultural heritage, museology, and history. Children also can ask questions about the museum. This part approximately takes 30 minutes. Thirdly, I am making a presentation about my profession. This presentation aims to explain the arrival of cuneiform writing in Anatolia and detail information about cuneiform writing. Finally, educational activities are started with children. This training can be like experimenting directly on clay if available, or writing letters with paper and pencil. Children are allowed to write their own names with the alphabet provided earlier. Activities such as adding and subtracting, Hittite numbers. Finding words in the puzzle are also performed. The aims of all this is to entertain children and explain the importance of preservation of cultural heritage, to give information about history, and introduce this alphabet, which was used thousands of years ago in Anatolia. Educational with the advance with intelligent children from Keçiören Educational Center School. This event was held with age groups 8, 10, 11. These groups 1 hour each. The first activities, my first activities. Education with the same groups. You can see example of cuneiform exercise, all of the students groups. The second one with Rize Province Çayırlı Secondary School, via just one click away project we have proposed to bring students living in disadvantage together with the place of their dreams in the digital world. Steps, first one, I wonder, second, take with me or us, and third one, virtual tour time. With Rize Çayırlı Secondary School students via conferencing via Zoom. They learn the numbers with cuneiform on the screen and try to find the numbers in the questions I prepared. You can see on the blackboard. Via just one click away projects, continue 3 hours with them. Children are writing cuneiform signs on paper first, then they are trying to write on clay. You can see examples of cuneiform writing on paper and the clay. Another one, activities, education, Izmir Anatolian High School students. The story of the arrival of the cuneiform writing to Anatolia. I give a lecture about this, the story of the arrival of the cuneiform writing to Anatolia. And after that, we discuss about the cuneiform and the Hittite Empire period. The last one is the educational with Taşköprü. Taşköprü is Kastamonu, Atatürk Primary School with 3rd grade students, approximately 25 children. I don't have time. I don't have much time. I must, this time I must finish now. Thank you for your kindest attention.
Thank you, Ms. Mine Çiftçi. I actually thank both Halil Bey and to you together. As we have seen in the chat box, everyone is so impressed with the work you have been doing with children, and also in a way Halil Bey's last words summarized why all these efforts are being made. Because yes, when we teach children when they are young what all these assets, what all these values are, what archaeology, what ethnography, what all these cultural objects represent, then they value something they know, and then when you value something, you automatically protect that. I am 100% agreeing with this approach, because otherwise, just to tell people protect and just to tell them, oh, you know, pass this to future generations, it's becoming an empty exercise. And the best time for these children to understand, and maybe even without thinking, you know, absorbing all these information is when they are young and when their minds are open, you know, they are there to learn. So I wrote on the chat too, I'm sure you have made thousands of children very, very happy with your various projects and works, and you know, learning cuneiform as a child is amazing too. Yes,
very lucky.
Yes, I studied Akkadian for 3 years, and I was a terrible student. It's not easy.
Really.
Cuneiform is not easy.
Yes.
But it's wonderful that not only you read cuneiform and hieroglyph alluvian, but also teaching to the students. Thank you so much, and we may receive questions for you at the end. Okay. Now I want to continue with Selin Atıcı, our next speaker. This time we have an architect that is involved in museum education, and I think this is, in a way, all these different participations from different backgrounds showing us the wide spectrum of museum studies, that you know, many people from very different disciplines can contribute to you know, to the work and activities of museums, you know, with their own expertise. So Miss Selin Atıcı is based in Istanbul, as I understand, like myself. She's from Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University, and working in various projects as a project coordinator in the private sector, and continues her graduate studies on census architecture and museums. Her speech, her talk, her presentation is titled Notes on the Learning of Space Relations Through Museums in Children's Perception. We have a noise from somewhere.
I think it's coming from the street. On my street today, okay. There's so much problem on my technical problems, because of now it's starting some voices from the street. Okay. I can change my place if you wish.
I think we are okay, as long as it's coming from your background, because I was going to tell if it was coming from someone else to turn off their microphones, but I think it's quiet now, and the floor is yours, Selin Hanım. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gülhan. First of all, I apologize for the technical problem at the beginning of the meeting, and now because of the voice. 1 minute.
You can share your screen with us.
Yes. Yes. And I want to thank ICOM Turkey, and Association of Museum Professionals for inviting me to this conference. The reason that I wanted to talk about this topic is because I think every museum should be designed in accordance with museum education for everyone. Creating spaces with designs made by following the sensory perception of children that form the basis of the civilization world will be a guide that will enable us to design for everyone. Senses guide us in perceiving and communicating with the space. The space, on the other hand, opens the way for learning with experience by communicating with us, and the space turns into learning space. With the nature of every museum as a learning space, children should be able to gain learning experience independently, and this study aims to guide in this regard. As it's seen on the chart, the interaction between subject and object is provided by perception. Among the factors affecting the level and form of perception are the effects that cause individual differences. such as sensory organs, intelligence, experiences. Factors such as genetics, past experiences, and living culture shape and customize each child's perception and learning experience. So there is not only one way to create a learning space and experience, since every child is a different planet to be explored. In this context, as an educational scientist, Jean Piaget emphasized the importance of learning style based on central discovery and experience, in which the child constructs and internalizes knowledge individually. For John Dewey, the basis of learning is not the indirect transfer of knowledge, but the individual experience of acquiring knowledge. The necessity for the learning space to be designed in accordance with individual experience emerges. These learning spaces are not only indoor museums, but also any other place where they can get real-life experiences. Children learn in context-rich and stimulating spaces designed for simultaneous use of multiple senses by drawing on their real-life experiences. Design is a way of communication with space. In this context, I would like to talk about how children perceive space. Space consists of many tangible and intangible components and images. The intangible concepts contained in the space reach the child through the perception of tangible images. For this reason, it is necessary to analyze all the tangible and intangible images that communicate with the child through space, and it should not be forgotten that they are the guiding concepts while designing the learning space. An active learning space should be able to appeal to all senses, and the space analysis should be made according to the senses. Although the rate of non-visual senses seems low, I would like to strongly emphasize that the effect of the use of multiple senses instead of only one sense is quite high on permanent learning. For this reason, the association of the sense of sight with other senses is important in making space perceived in a spatial way for the individual. Now I will have a detailed look on spatial perceptions using the senses such as visual, sound, touch, smell, and taste. To start with visual spatial perception, first of all, I want to focus on color and space. Colors have effects on people, especially on children, such as excitement, calmness, inspiration, anxiety, nervousness, and peace. For example, contrast colors increases the perception, where red has stimulating effect and blue has concentration effect. Most of the tension, restlessness, loss of interest, and behavior problems arise from spaces, environments, unplanned light, and colors with design flaws. And colors are suitable for works that require attention and concentration. On the other hand, it is suggested that warm tones should be used in high activity areas and in calm and relaxing areas, and also it is stated that contrasts and dark colors facilitate perception. Warm colors make the space small and warm, the sound level high, the texture soft, the function active and extroverted, the physical effort low, and the time spent in the space short. This creates a stimulating effect. This is a good example of how color can increase the readability of the space. Good lighting should focus on psychological effects rather than aesthetics. Light intensity can cause the colors to be seen differently than what they are, and the space to be perceived as more spacious or gloomy than it is, depending on the light intensity and type. The effects of natural lighting are quite significant because it relaxes children, increases concentration, and reduces hyperactivity. In other words, natural light is very important in terms of providing mind-body harmony suitable for learning. Now I'm going to continue with form and space. There are a number of psychological effects on children that is creating the form. For example, rectangular and square forms with right angles and sharp lines create a dynamic and powerful effect. Narrow angle forms have an unsettling effect. Circular forms have been observed to have relaxing effect. While the lowered ceilings encourage the children to play less or to play calmly, it is stated that high ceilings can encourage more active games. Now I would like to show you this photo to emphasize the importance of ratio, scale, and space on visual spatial perceptions. In order to provide a sense of trust among children and help them gain self-esteem, the furniture, equipment, and ceiling heights in the spaces should be designed according to the child scale. Height among the dimensions of width, length, and height in the space is more effective in terms of perception of the space on the user than other dimensions. While the wall element creates the perception of enclosing the space, the height above the head shows the quality of protection and privacy for the user. When we look at the psychological aspect of perception, mostly the silence in the space turns the individual to their inner voice. While the child tends to remain silent and exhibits a calmer and more observant attitude in quiet spaces, like other users, they will feel freer and more active in activities such as moving, speaking, and socializing in spaces where a loud and active environment is created. It should be considered that too much noise can make it difficult to focus while contributing to socialization, and too much silence can cause them to feel insecure or lonely while keeping them calm and focused on themselves. Like Palazma said, touch is the sense mode that integrates our experience of the world with our experience of ourselves. With that being said, let's continue with touch and spatial perceptions. Texture is a communication element that activates the senses of sight and touch. Compared to adults, children perceive much more pattern and its types than its basic functions. For children, tactile perception plays an important role in bonding and learning about the touch surface. A couple of examples for learning by touching from mediums like clay, water, and sand. Smell is a sense that makes place spatial. There is a certain smell in all kinds of places, and when the smell is detected, it can inform people about the place. The olfactory cortex of the brain interprets and recognizes that smell using the previous experiences. The use of olfactory stimulants in places has positive effects on the learner's writing skill, cognitive performance, mathematical success, and creativity. Also, spaces have a taste just like they have a smell. Taste is not perceived independently of their senses, and the sense of smell is in a key lock-like relationship with taste. As we are finishing with the topic of spatial perception, I would like to continue with children's museums as learning places. Looking at the museum in terms of the educational mission, it is also defined as non-formal education institutions that can encourage the awakening or development of feelings such as logic, observation, creativity. Now we can start analyzing specific children's museums that can do all of these very successfully. First project is Lego House in Denmark. When we look at the mass effect of the Lego house project, consisting of 21 blocks, we see that it's possible to show kids that large-scale structure can be built with Lego-looking blocks. In this context, differences of visual and tactile perception between the scales in Lego house can increase the creativity of children, as it shows them that their dreams can be realized on a structural scale. The colors of the indoors exhibition spaces match with the color setup on the project terraces, which creates a design language that is self-consistent. Colors were chosen from the basic colors of the Lego blocks. Going with this color choice can allow children to integrate the space in a healthier way with the Legos they play. Another example is Work AC Art Museum in New York. Taking children's creativity seriously means providing them with spaces where they can experience diverse range of interests and receive professional guidance from real artists, educators, and experts in the field. The museum's pedagogical approach is based on a strong involvement of parents and the idea of children having control over their own learning methods. The remarkable approach in the Work AC is that the place is seen as a teacher for children, and therefore the museum is called the third teacher. Although the spaces with different functions are designed with different colors, the main corridor is left wide in order to be perceived more easily by children, so that there is no color confusion and the entire space and the corridor belonging to the function of the space are defining with the same color. Thus, an environment is prepared for children to understand the relationship between space, function, and color. The color choices that were made depending on the function of each space goes out of the space and overflows into the corridor where the space is linked. It is very important in the context of inclusive design that children who have not yet learned to read can understand and move independently from an adult guide. As in the example on the right, the special color legend in the corridor that is supported by writing allows children to read the museum in color and gives children freedom of movement. Breaking the routine and offering an unfamiliar path instead will excite children and increase their inner urge to explore. Like the colors in the corridors, the way of circulation also differs. Transition between spaces and floors for children can be achieved not only by walking down the stairs, but sometimes by sliding down the slide and sometimes by jumping over a mesh floor. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I'd like to summarize by saying that the fact that museums are institutions that play an important role for social equality in education through learning shows how important and valuable the museum education is, and shows the museums are for every society. Depending on the principle of lifelong learning, it should be taken as a museum responsibility to create learning spaces where different opportunities can be provided for individuals of all ages, all genders, and socio-cultural sections, especially children. To be able to develop architectural solutions and suggestions for museum education and children's museums, to put them into practice, and to ensure the dissemination of structures designed with this approach by feeding the relationship between the child and architecture with fields such as biology, philosophy, psychology, and sociology, which has become a current issue in our country as well as in the international area, is one of the very important responsibilities of architects. And that final note, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for taking the time and attention.
Thank you, Selin Atıcı. This was really a very interesting talk that we realized colors, shapes, and senses are, affecting our learning and all other, understanding and perception in many ways that I guess we are not even aware most of the time. And I also understand from your talk that museums are actually competing a lot and trying their best in terms of being more accessible, more entertaining, and more participatory, whether it's for children or adults. But this session is showing us that there is a lot of effort going on to keep children in the museums and to educate them in the museums by using the facilities of the museums and their collections and other opportunities. And it is true that from the point of view of cultural rights, museums are the main places that we actually exercise our cultural rights in the world, most of the time also without even paying any money, which is also very important, to be able to access to culture, to be able to participate without costing any money. So thank you so much. I'm sure at the end there will be probably questions and comments for you. Now I would like to move to our speaker from Pakistan, to Miss Hina Mahbub. I hope you are here and we overcome all the technical difficulties. I mean, your talk is titled Challenges in Museum Education and Digital Solutions for E-Learning in Pakistan. But I think the biggest challenge we always face is a good internet connection before going to anything else. And your background and activities are proving my point that people from very different disciplines can actually contribute to museum studies or museums themselves as institutions. So you are a software engineer and an art designer, which you combine these two very particular education and skills. I guess in your production, in the company that you are the chief executive officer and co-founder, Plabesk, if I'm reading it correctly, Plabesk, in Islamabad and based in Islamabad in Pakistan, and you are designing, various museums coming from this specialties. So among these museums are the Army Heritage Foundation, Army Museum, Lahore and Rawalpindi. And currently you are working in the National History Museum in Mardan, as I understand. We are with great excitement waiting for your presentation. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Gil, and thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. It was really amazing to see presentations and discussions of all over from Turkey. Hello, everyone, in Turkey. I'm really amazed to be part of ICOM, and I'm grateful to ICOM to welcome on this forum. As you have already introduced me, like I'm working in Pakistan. Shall I share screen also? Girl, can you see my screen also?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. Okay. My topic is basically challenges of museum education and digital solutions in Pakistan. While making museum, the biggest issue we face is like how to make a museum, like in a country where we have a lot of problems, and especially in time of pandemic and during the time of this COVID situation, a lot of things got stopped, and we were not even available with things and even mediums and how to complete our task also. So I'll start over with this is my introduction you have already gave. I'm art and design consultant with Army Heritage Foundation, and I'm currently working with Heritage Foundation, one more museum that is again on Pakistan Museum. And then I've completed my museum in Mardan that was on Army Museum, and again it was with National Museum also. You can relate with that also. I'll share some more pictures as well. Okay, when we look back, looking back, I'll go to back when I was a child. I was 8 years old. I visited Lahore Museum with a family. When I was in Dubai, I always want to visit this museum because I heard a lot about this museum in Pakistan, in Lahore. So it was interesting, but I wasn't able to relate myself with the own history. That what is this and how we are relating it, how we are into it. And it is just make me wonder how today's generation can relate themselves in the age and internet and fast-paced life. Now, you know, there are two types of museum. What I feel like, I just want to discuss different things because everyone has talked and discussed on children's and kids and how to we have to relate. It is very important we have to relate that. But, you know, there are traditional museums and now there are contemporary things coming on way. So we are working up to things of like what have to come, like, you know, as it is era of digitalized era. We say digitalized era. It is going to be digitalized world in near future. Everything is in hand of gadgets, and we all have gadgets, and especially children, they are very much into gadgets. So what I feel like we need to relate e-learning through with different things and link with different things as well, which I'll show later on as well. Okay, these are the museums I'm working on. Like currently I'm working with Pakistan Gallery again with HF, and I've worked with, these are some of museum, like we have worked digital things over here. We have worked with digital things and as per contemporary things as well, and try to achieve on international scale as well with our limited resources in whatever study. One more thing I need to add, the topic why I selected this was actually selection of this topic was that while sitting here, we don't have any formal education on museums. So one of the issue was that how we have to cater and how we go through problems and how we solve the things without any formal education. Though we are from art and design, but we don't have any museology subject in Pakistan. This is the main thing which we are lacking in our studies. As I've heard, like in presentation and different things that you people, everyone is having museology and teaching student as well on museum education as well. So whatever we have done and we have learned with organizations and different people with our experiences and with while passing with experiences and experimenting on different things as well. Though I have visited Turkey in my recently, I visited Turkey and I visited a lot of museum there, and they're amazingly they have developed that, and we aim and we also aim to make museums in Pakistan up to that scale. So this is one more museum recently I've made over here. You can see different things. We organize it with different things like different objects, digital things, and sculptures, and everything get involved in that. Then again, these are some of digital innovations which I'm already currently working and I worked on, like we make radar simulations. That how radar works is a proper simulation with a game animation also, and a person can play this game over here. Then digital archives, we have displayed with digital archives. Then again, different touchscreen softwares. Just these things are actually for students. If students visit and if children visit over there, they get to experience this thing, and it is very important thing what I face is the biggest challenge that we are lacking in these things over here. Then what are the key issues? This is the main thing, important thing, that no professional degree on a museum education, which I've again discussed previously also. Lack of education skills, staff, and infrastructure. As a museum is a combination of all art and design field, like you can say communication design, archaeology, architecture, interior design, product design, and art and design. Means we combine all these things and then we get into this museum thing. Then lack of skilled labor and resources appropriate in infrastructure. These are the key issues which we face while making of the museum. I'm discussing on making of museum. Like, it is very important thing and challenge for us without any background. Means whatever I've learned through my experience with different peoples and with different organizations. So these are the key issues that we are not taught in our education system. We know what is art and design and communication design architecture, but especially museum, it's totally a different field. It's totally a different world. So while being into museums, and now I'm specialized in that, and I'm working in different things of museum as well. Then what is requirement and what is challenges? We need audience, balanced work, people with reflected experiences, change in things, then again, visitor, resources, staff, project and time. And again, challenges come, challenges are there, you can see it. Challenges. The first is social and communication challenge. We are unable to attract and engage audience for museum because we are still running on old methodology. Like, if there again, I explained that there are two types of museum. One are with archaeological objects, one are with artifacts, and other are in the new thing when you don't have any such like history or thing. We create museum to interact with people, and we create museum to attract them. Actually, it is very important thing, because we work for museums to attract audience and people. It is very important to attract them, and we should work according to their mindset, and we actually work and try to come up to their point, so they get attracted and they visit and come over here. Then come intellectual challenges. Gathering audience because of low literacy rate, connectivity and communication with audience get difficult, and we need to work on visual thinking rather than enforcing traditional environment in museum. Because there is no formal education of museums, precise execution become massive challenge. Sensory issues. We only learn through experience, and questioning. The question is what kind of experience we are capable to deliver. Digitalization and technology used in museums like multimedia, touchscreen, and projections. Behavioral challenges. Tech-savvy audience, and still we are engaging people with traditional methodology. So we need to realign and develop new strategies to engage today's audience. Preservation. We are not preserving experiences. It's just a history book. So this is one of very important thing, that we should preserve experiences. We should preserve different experience of people and different experience of different eras, and that can be with just getting into digitalizing era. Now the thing comes, world is changing. There are 7.8 billion people, 8 billion people and smartphone user worldwide. We need to create more engaging experiences today's generation. So mobile apps, user generated content, and virtual tours. This is the thing we can correlate and engage, and we can combine, and it is actually building bridge we can create it for museums as well. Lack of cohesive approach. Build digital experiences. There is lack of integrated approach to establish unifying experience and communication. Then again, we can engage with touchscreen TISOLs for better communication and engagement through apps and mobile apps and different things. As we know, in pandemic time, we all are up to Zoom, and we are getting even conferences with Zoom, and we are interacting because no one is able to move around, and so everything is online now. And apart from online, we are all on smartphones. So this is one of main important thing. We need connectivity and bridge of museums and education with smartphone as well, so that rather than wasting time on playing games and different things, they study on a mobile as well. Solution by developing a platform. Build digital experience. This is all like what sort of platform we can introduce, and which we are also introducing in museums in Army also, and different museums in Pakistan. Digital screens, again, this is for study purpose as well. You can keep whole history and archive and save everything in these screens. Mobile apps for museum education. Digitally museum tours guide, then projections and simulations. Audience consolidations for museums. You know, like digital tour guides, like everywhere is being done, and we need to improve it and get more things. Like if I'm sitting in Pakistan, I want to study something from Turkey or any other country, I just click on an app and I go there and I start studying different things and art and history through these apps as well. Then again, projection and simulation. These helps a lot, like, you know, it is augmented reality, then holograms and these different things. These comes in projection simulation, which are new things. And like you can say, we can, we say is add contemporary art also. Museum is actually combination of different things. It's combination of art and design and even tech also. Like it's not only like we are just designing museum. It's like whole study of different art and design field. We study art and communication design for one thing, but for the museum we study everything and we combine things together, and we make one like museum with all these things. For better communication and engagement of learning and education. My purpose is for this is that what is purpose of app? It is for engagement and better education for children, especially, like, because as I was child, I didn't know and I didn't relate myself what sort of education we can get from a museum. So this is the thing, we can get whole studies and everything. We can get different disciplines with these app as well. Building a platform for a museum. We are building a platform for mobile, web, and TikTok to help museum to deliver desired experiences using their own data, also keeping the control and management to keep their presence updated and alive. This is the thing, actually, I'm building one plan. We are building, my company Plebis, we are building a platform for a museum. This is basically an app where I have started working on things, and we are working on this app actively, so to seeking support from to nurture it and to initiate it with different people as well. So I'm working on these designs that it is like different countries or whole countries of the world will be over here, can get along with us, and then we can study and we can get tours and different museums can come over it. Again, you can have a look on that. Like if we go to Pakistan, we can go through to all history and different museums of Pakistan. If we want to know about different people, and we can even learn a lot of things with this app. Again, I'm working on design. Just I'm going to initiate it globally. I'm just seeking support with all over from ICOM and people all over the world, so we can develop this app and initiate it to all over the world as a good platform and as an initiative for a museum. It is not only for one. This app is not only for one museum. It is for all over the museum of Pakistan. So this was a thing, like it is actually future. You know, future is all about all these gadgets, and we are always on social media and everything. Whatever we go, we see, we always have like phone and this sort of gadgets on our head. So this is an app, like we can build a bridge that is a gap between like going to the museum and just sitting at a home, and we can study a lot of things and get knowledge enhanced by these things. So this was actually my topic, like how we can build a gap and what are the challenges. This is the thing we can build, and challenges can get resolved as well. So I thank you, everyone. Please join me, and you can join me and send me email if anyone interested on this, my email also.
Thank you very much, Hina, with your very full presentation, actually, and you clearly identified a very true gap. And just like you are describing Pakistan, in Turkey too, I mean, people live in their smartphones. I mean, exactly. Everything is happening on the phone. Sometimes I'm surprised. For example, I'm going to a nice seaside place with a great view and so on, and people competing with each other, you know, to find a nice bench or table. They sit, and instead of looking at the view, they are looking at their telephones. True. So you know, this is you know, across the world. So yeah, using smartphones to attract people to museums and to give them some information through a smartphone app is, I guess.
I just want to say I'm launching this app soon in near future, and I've started this initiative myself rather than like, you know, that I'm just seeking like people get attached with this, and it will be fruitful for everyone. and its name is the Museum actually.
It's called the Museum.
The Museum. This app is called Museum.
The Museum, yeah. I think the real challenge, I think challenge was in your title, is that with all the social media and phones and so on, people's attention span is very short. People just, everything is swept. People go through things very quickly and everything is consumed so fast. So I think that's the only thing, or that's the main thing actually worries me for the coming months and years. Nothing is dealt with, enough time and patience, but everything is very quick. But that's the reality of our times. Exactly. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speakers, we have a joint presentation again from Miss Sebla Kut and Miss Hüsnü Nalbant. Are you going to both talk, or only one of you will talk?
We'll both talk.
You both talk, okay. Let me introduce you very quickly. As I understand from your CVs, you must have been friends since your university days at Istanbul University English Literature Department. And then you are both obviously interested in museums and museum education, and you combined different experiences in your previous works. Sebla as a marketing and communication person at the Istanbul Modern Museum, and Hüsnü as a museum educator with lots of workshops and course experiences. You combine these valuable experiences in your company, Comet Projects of Art and Culture, based in Istanbul. And both of you are members of the scientific board of the museum education program for teachers within the Ministry of Education in Turkey. And your talk is naturally related to all these museum education and children's education experiences, and it's entitled Rethinking the Museum Experience, the Museum Kit Project. And so first we have Sebla Kut with us. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Bulhan. Mm-hmm. I think Hüsnü will share with us the screen, the presentation.
Yes.
Firstly, let me start with thanking you again for inviting us to make this presentation. It's really invaluable for us to be with you, with these museum professionals. Okay, Hüsnü.
Okay, are you able to see the screen? Yes, right?
Yes, it's quite fine.
Okay. Thank you for having us here. You already told what the title of our presentation is. Here is a brief summary of who we are, and we will start with talking about the Museum Kit project, and then continue with the digitalization of the teacher trainings through hybrid e-learning tools, and finally talk about the outcome of the project itself. Before we go into the details of the Museum Kit project, though, we would like to start with saying that Turkey is an exceptional country that's full of history, cultural heritage sites, and museums from one end to the other. When we talk in numbers, Turkey has 467 museums, and since our subject matter is education, it would be useful to say Turkey has over 1 million teachers and almost 20 million students. These are really big numbers. Now I would like to ask a question. So how do so many teachers and students experience cultural heritage in Turkey? The pictures that you're looking at right now give us actually a really good idea on what's happening. On the left, you're looking at a picture that we rarely see in Turkey. You're looking at a museum guide who is performing for a school group for children to connect with the artworks that they are looking at. This is a rare scene. What we usually see, though, is the picture on the right, since museum education departments are mainly seen in private museums, but not in all of them either, while the public museums do not even have proper guides to introduce the museum to any kind of visitors, let alone children. When school groups are concerned, teachers are not informed enough about the museum they are going to visit with their students, and students are not informed about what they are about to experience before their museum visits. And since teachers do not feel confident and knowledgeable enough about the experience they're about to have, they depend on the museum's education department, of course, if there is one, and seek constant guidance. They are scared to have this experience on their own with their students. What would happen if the teacher doesn't know the answers to a student's question? This is a big, big fear in Turkey. When public museums are concerned, we see the picture on the right most of the time just because of this, because the teacher doesn't want to come across that question in any way. What we see is an unplanned visit that turns into a rushed walk through the collections. There are exceptional teachers, of course, who do certain activities with their students before, during, and after their museum visits too. But mostly what we see is the picture on the right. So we can tell that in both private and public museums in Turkey, most of the experiences museum offers start at the museum. There are, of course, good examples that are exceptional. We always have to say that out loud. But when we look at the general scene, does this really work for teachers and students? This is actually the point where the Museum Kids project was born. Through years of experience and observations in the museum field, we as two museum professionals realized that there is a huge gap between the schools and the museums. And the Museum Kids project was born as a bridge between the two. Now I'll pass the mic to Sebla to tell you more about the project.
Thank you. So what is the Museum Kit project? Let's start with this question. Actually, it's an educational ecosystem, we can tell, comprised of hybrid elements, which are digital and physical, that are designed to increase awareness of cultural heritage through an enhanced museum experience. It has been implemented in the system of the national education in Turkey, and hopefully very soon it is planning to be implemented in the system of the Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism as well. Next slide, please, Hüsnü. This project basically aims at ensuring the visitor's development by providing a whole new museum experience, including pre and post visit processes. As I mentioned, this is a sustainable ecosystem that encompasses teachers training, use of educational kits by teachers and students, periodical supervision and feedbacks, and user experience analysis, and revision and updating steps. So it's a whole package, I can say. So it tries to make the museum experience much more understandable, enjoyable, and efficient for visitors. But it doesn't start the process at the museum. It starts the process before the museum. In this case, in the educational kits case, it starts at in class. It basically supports the establishment of the culture of understanding, caring, and therefore protecting and enhancing cultural heritage and arts in Turkey. Hüsnü skipped the slide, but it's not important. The project is carried out in cooperation with the Ministry of National Education and with the support of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism and Ziraat Bankası. a local state bank, since 2019. So the project includes both educational and visitor kits, which are custom designed for the relevant site or the museum. It's not a generic basic kit. It is specifically designed for the relevant subject matter. But now we will only talk about the educational kits that are specially designed for teachers and students. So what do we include in this learning process? As you see here, there are lessons, many games and activities, a timeline of civilizations, a student's book, a teacher's guide in the content. But they are not only the physical material, they are all digitalized and could be reached by the teachers all around Turkey from the EBA platform, which is the official digital platform of the Ministry of National Education. EBA stands for, by the way, Educational Informatics Network. Through these abnormal period of pandemic, all students and teachers were able to have their classes through this on this platform. So through EBA integration, the experience that we're trying to build becomes borderless for teachers and students. But there was this challenging part, of course, because the museum visit phase is very associated with the physical experience. So we actually created a guided museum visit tour, a video. So we have overcome this challenge, and on this video, I mean, it's an enhanced video, like AR-like tools, 3D modeling, digital reconstructions, audiovisual enhancements on the curated content that we have put in the video. As Hüsnü mentioned, it all started to seek an answer to this question. Even though there is immense amount of information and fun elements at the museum, why are the teachers in general reluctant to include museum experience and the knowledge, the whole knowledge within it, to their school programs? Why do they avoid talking about it? There is this simple answer to that. They just don't know about it. They don't know about the content. They don't feel confident to tell about the content, the collections, the cultural heritage. So that's why they avoid talking about those subjects. So that's why we started with the teachers training. We think that if they improve themselves in the relevant subjects, they'll be eager to involve the museum or the cultural heritage elements into their students' learning experiences. Before they reach the content that I showed shortly before, they have to get the course and complete it so that they could use the material efficiently. So the teacher, as you see here, this is a real life museum kit user teacher. The teacher becomes the guide of his or her own class. In this context, the teachers are given a thorough education. Hüsnü will show and tell you about it in some seconds. But through these trainings and the museum kit materials, teachers become the ideal guides for their classes. Actually, through these contents, teachers connect the dots between the curriculum and the museum collection or the cultural heritage element. So basically, we try to create an ecosystem which can be adapted and integrated to be used in any e-learning platform. So let's get into some details with Hüsnü. She'll tell you about e-learning processes. So the floor is yours.
So the museum kits are, like Sebla said, designed to be used by teachers only after teacher training because they are filled with multi-layered educational materials. And each piece speaks to another. So in order to be able to use this teacher's material efficiently, we used to have face-to-face teacher trainings with teachers at the museum. But however, as of March 2020, with the start of the pandemic, we decided to digitalize our teacher trainings and offer e-learning materials for both teachers and students. This was inevitable for many museums and for many professionals who are involved in the museum education field. This only became possible though through EBA platform, which is like Sebla said, the Educational Informatics Network that belongs to the Ministry of National Education in Turkey. And this platform is open to all of the teachers and all of the students all around Turkey. And the project has been integrated into the Ministry of National Education system and is now open to any teacher who applies and finishes the online teachers training with success. When a teacher has access to museum kit materials after finishing the training that's tailored for each museum kit, it means that he or she can start the museum education process with his or her students. Even though the materials we create are designed for middle school teachers and students, the trainings are open to all levels of teachers and to all subjects. Through this important step, the Museum Kit project has become accessible to over 1 million teachers and their students. This also means that the physical borders of the museum education have been abolished through the digitalization of teacher trainings and activities we offer for students. I will now show different tools that we use during this digitalization process. First of all, on EBA platform, teachers come across a page that informs them about the project, gives detailed information about each museum kit, and guides them towards the trainings they can receive online. Once they receive their trainings, this is the detailed part that they see, the information. And once they receive their trainings, this is the page they see. As you can see, this page is for Topkapı Palace Museum Kit. And so once the application process is over, the training is open and the teachers are directed towards the Museum Kit main page. On this page, they come across all the online videos and digital documents. Here we are looking at Topkapı Palaces, like I said, and within 5 days, the training needs to be completed for teachers to be able to use the materials that are offered on this page. Now I'll one by one give you examples of the tools we used. A learning tool, e-learning tool that we used is a recorded video. The training actually opens up with meeting us as the project coordinators. We recorded a green screen video for teachers to be able to see the creators of the project and let them hear the details of the project from us. So it gives a warm feeling actually, instead of having a voiceover speak all the time. Another tool is a recorded Zoom lesson. This is actually really important because through this recorded Zoom session, teachers could understand how the lessons are run. In this session, I took the role of a teacher and volunteer teachers acted as students. And this way, they could relate to their students' future experiences and see how they should be running the class themselves. And through this video, teachers get an idea on how to plan their lessons. Another one is the more expected way, let's say, the voiceover explaining how to use the kit. There are various videos where each piece of the kit is being explained by a voiceover in very detail, so the teacher knows when to use which parts and where. Another and the last tool we used is an animation, which I'm gonna actually show you a little. I'm gonna mute it a little. So I'm gonna mute it and explain to you what it's talking about. It tells us exactly what is gonna happen when we go to the museum, and the museum experience only happens after the pre-museum activities and lessons that are done in the classroom or online. Here it says you can actually have your experience in 90 or 120 minutes or 60 minutes. You should be taking this and that material with you to the museum. Don't forget the activity sheets and the museum experience cards. Don't forget to tell your students about the rules of the museum, starting from the classroom. Leave your bags before entering the museum, and then remind the rules again to your students. Position yourself in a place where your students can see the artworks, and your voice is easy for them to hear. So it's very delicately and in detail telling us what's on the cards, or which tool is used for what. If we continue, like you should be asking questions to your students, but wait for their answers first and then share the answers that are on the cards. And they should be at a certain distance from the artwork, so nothing bad happens. Don't touch. Do this activity in front of this artwork, so and so forth. So you can see that all of these details actually make the teachers feel and smell the experience a little bit more. And at the moment, if teachers and students are not able to visit the museum, they can use the pictures of the artworks just for now, but a more integrated and immense version of this digital museum experience will be happening in the near future with AR, like Sebla explained. So teachers also come across all the PDFs and documents and all the activities that are digitalized for EBA platform, and they can assign certain activities to their students. I will just give an example of a digital activity. This is from Paramuseum Museum Kit. This painting is from Paramuseum's Orientalist Painting Collection. It's called A Scene from the Turkish Harem. On the painting, there are different musical instruments that were used in 17th century Ottoman Empire. And these instruments are, of course, still used today. And in the digital activity, by using this artwork, students try to match the names of the instruments with the instruments themselves after clicking on them and hearing their voices. Through this digital activity, we go beyond the limits of paper and add an audio layer to the experience. This is just one of the examples. At the moment, we have completed 4 museum kits for 4 different museums, and for each of these kits, there are more than 15 activities. Some of them are meant to be completed manually, some of them both manually and digitally. So the digitalization process didn't only happen for the teachers' trainings, but also for students as well. So the students, for the first time, in Turkey have access to digital museum education materials, and digitalization, of course, makes everything so much more accessible to so many more numbers of teachers and students. In that sense, it has a very positive effect on what we do. And last but not least, we would like to share some numbers with you. In May 2020, Para Museum and Topkapı Palace Museum Kids teacher trainings opened for application. For Para Museum, 10,418 teachers applied. Out of this number, 7,293 teachers finished the training successfully. For Topkapı Palace, the numbers were even higher. In a total of 17,143 teachers that finished, that applied to, sorry, I messed up the numbers. I'm not good with maths like always. The Topkapı Palace numbers were higher, that was correct. But in a total of 1,143 teachers finished our online training and are now ready to start their museum education processes. We should never forget, though, that the number of teachers is always multiplied when we think about students. And when we look at it in an average way, we can say that 500 students per year will receive museum education through our project. And we need to remind you that these numbers are only for 2 museum kids teachers training. So we are very excited to see these numbers grow as new museums, kids teachers trainings start. It's been a very exciting process for us. Within 1 year, we have changed our approach from face-to-face to being online, and we see the amazing effects of it. That's all we have to say. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Sebla and Hüsne. This is really a revolutionary work. I mean, I am so glad that I was part of this meeting and was able to listen what you have accomplished. It is extremely valuable, and you will see its impact in the midterm and long term. Yeah, it is so great that something like this happened and already in implementation. I mean, I don't have an EBA access, but I would like to get access to the program. So make it available to us. I'm sure lots of people will be interested in.
Actually, I'm sorry. Actually, we're preparing the visitor kits right now, so it will be open to every member. I mean, every visitor who are willing to have it.
Yeah, no, it is great. And I just want to say a very small thing. I mean, 2-3 years ago, we have conducted a public opinion poll, covering all Turkey in terms of to understand people's perception of archaeology and practices with archaeology and so on. Anyhow, ours was limited to archaeology, but one of the questions was where do people learn about archaeology? Where do they get their information? And although we have so many archaeology museums in Turkey, museums were maybe 10th or so. People were talking about television, social media, traveling, books, magazines, every other thing, but not the museums. So even for archaeology, people were not seeing museums as a resource to learn about archaeology. And, a project like yours that is first educating teachers so that teachers can take their students without being afraid of being in a museum and knowing what they are going to tell is really the remedy, you know, it's the solution for that problem. I mean, I'm really excited to hear about it. It's great.
Thank you.
So with your wonderful presentation, we actually concluded today's session, okay, with 35 minutes delay, but it is not too bad. I don't know if there are questions we can take, or people are already full of new information and they want to digest that. So I don't know that part. I mean, you know, I can ask questions to every presenter because everything was very interesting, but also I don't want to keep people too long because we have been together more than 2.5 hours. But I don't know. I think this decision more belongs to ICOM Turkey people, Saadet Hanım or Ali Akın Bey and so on. Do we have questions or do we want to say goodbye to our participants?
Of course we have. Maybe first of all, we accept the questions about directly or in the chat part. Please write all the question and ask your question. At the same time, we will talk about today's session, information, presentation. Of course, you are going well, Gülpulhan. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I am very used to moderate meetings and also doing classes online. So
officially, I have a verse at the end of the session. This is the end of the part 3 session, part 1 group 3 session. Maybe it's okay. Maybe Iza as a ICOM Pakistan, Saadet Hanım, and me will say something about at the end of the session.
Merhabalar. Bekliyoruz hocamız katılımcılar gelsin diye. Şunlara bakalım.
Sorusu mu var?
10 dakikalık bir
sorusu olan varsa
Yes, I have a question.
If anyone question. Yeah, of course you can.
You can actually ask it. Yeah, we are not that crowded.
Just only 5 minutes. It doesn't take a lot. But I'd like to ask a question to Ms. Selin Atıcı. Thank you for her presentation. That was really informing. She was talking about the space design for museums, especially. That was quite important. I'd like to ask to her as a designer, of course, she is a kind of designer because she's a professional. Does she have any kind of idea about the web design through the e-learning process for children while they're just having an e-learning process? Because we said more than 100%. We are just going to be on online. Maybe a hybrid information and hybrid education, of course, gives us that kind of chance. What about the online learning settings? Does she have any idea, a new challenging idea for children and for adults or maybe the young people to have that process through internet or websites? Thank you, Selin. Your voice. Selin, your voice, you have to open your voice.
You are mute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for your interest. Yes, I have some ideas about e-learning, and but center of the learning, I think there are senses and experiences, and we have to feel and we have to touch something to learn. But in this time, we need online conferences, museum visitings to achieve some problems. I think the New York Metropolitan Museums, they have some platform about e-learning on a website. MedKids, its name. It's very good and successful example, I think, for learning. But I have to repeat that census is important, and everybody, not just children, everybody have to experience with census. So that I can say that
Thank you.
I'm checking that part. Say with thankful words for the presenters. Maybe you see.
Yeah.
I'm checking. Is there any question?
I didn't see any questions, but
Okay.
it seems like everyone is quite happy with the presentations. We certainly learned a lot from various activities going on related to education in Turkey. And I see that there is so much focus on children's education through museums. And also the Halil Bey's work with visually impaired young people and so on. Those are very impressive works, world class projects, really. It's great that all this museum potential in Turkey as a learning resource and as an education platform is being utilized now by so many different people and by lots of young people. So I think in that sense there is great hope for the future.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gülpınar. Thank you so much, Ali Akın Akyol and Saadet Güner. It was wonderful, great online seminar program or meeting program. Thank you to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I have some words at the end of this session. Thanks to today's moderator for her successful management. Thank you so much. Many thanks to
Thank you so much.
Ruxana David, Izahan, Zahida Khatri from Pakistan, Saadet Güner, chairman of the Kümit, FOKU, and Bülent Gönültaş and Melia Yaylalı from ICOM Turkey. That's all the group organized this sessions, event organizations. Melia Yaylalı from the ICOM Turkey Secretariat asked me and told me to share with you that she couldn't speak due to problems with her internet connection. ICOM 2021 Part 1 Group Through session conclude today. ICOM 2021 Part 1 Group 4 sessions will be held again this month between 27 and 30 July. We welcome all museum professionals to these sessions. I wish everyone happy, healthy, and productive work to see you at Group 4 session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank
for
you
all.
to everybody.
Okay.
So much.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.